J'ai préparé mes questions en français.
I prepared my questions in English, so I will be asking them in English, but I understand that you will be answering in French, and you speak French well. That's kind. Thank you.
So my questions are going to be about the decision to declare Joe Wei persona non grata.
Yeah. Oui.
And to understand a bit more about why that happened and why it happened when it happened. So I'd like to just start with some PNG basics, if we can call them that, and you covered them a bit, but just to go over it, I understand that the power to declare a foreign diplomat persona non grata is a power of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Is that right? And just if you can say yes for the records.
Oui, oui, oui.
Yeah. And when Joe Wei was declared persona non grata, that would have been your decision then?
Oui.
Okay. And in their testimony,
Answer, yes.
global affairs officials referred to declaring a foreign diplomat persona non grata as a last resort. And I understand that you have diplomatic tools that lie on a spectrum, with some that are less severe, and then PNG would be one of the most severe. You'd agree that it's generally considered a last resort?
Oui, pour différentes raisons.
Yes, for various reasons. Because not only is it a strong diplomatic message, but it's more for that, because there are repercussions. So if we carry out an action, China will respond, or the other country will respond. And Canada's goal is to never lose a diplomat in another country, because we lose eyes and ears in a country to which it's difficult to have access, and where the media reality is very different. And so it's a way that someone helps people understand how things are done in China and how we can defend our interests in China. It depends on these diplomats. So it's always important to know, before we expel a diplomat from Canada, we have to make sure the reaction will be proportional. So if we expel one person, so another person will be expelled, not 2 or 3. And you saw that with India, 41 were expelled. And secondly, how we're able to ensure that there's not just expelling our diplomats, but also that there's not a much broader repercussions, so job losses because there were economic sanctions. And I've already mentioned that earlier.
You want to be sure that you have a strong justification before taking this last resort step. Is that fair?
Oui, mais dans le cas de Zawi, la position est...
Yes, but in Zhao's case, it was untenable. He had to leave. So it was more, when was he going to go? Because in my mind, it was clear that he had to leave.
In that particular case, you recall that on the 1st of May, 2023, the Globe and Mail had reported that Joe Wei was engaged in targeting my client, Mr. Chong. And then between the 2nd of May,
yes,
Mr. Chong and other parliamentarians raised this issue repeatedly in question period, and they called on the government to expel Joe Wei. Is that something you remember?
Oui, tout à fait.
Okay.
Je me souviens même d'une...
Yes, I do remember. I even remember of one parliamentary committee meeting where I appeared, but I don't have my agenda with me. So when that was happening, the war in Sudan just broke out. So I left and I went to Kenya. Because the previous weekend, I tried to work with the Americans to ensure that our diplomats had left Khartoum, which was now a battlefield. And after that, I worked for the evacuation of Canadians in Sudan, and I worked to ensure that they be sent out. So the question was, do we use Canadian Army planes? I was working with Defense Minister Anand at the time, and we wondered if they would be evacuated from Khartoum which was it safe enough or not, or Djibouti and Kenya. So I spoke with my Kenyan counterpart, so we made sure that the Canadians were sent to Kenya, and I went to Kenya to make sure that that departure was going well because we were in a situation of crisis. So I don't think that I was present at all the question periods that you're referring to, but I know that I came back from Kenya, and then I went before the parliamentary committee the following afternoon, and there, Michael, your client, asked me, why is that person not PhD? In my mind, the decision had already been taken, but I answered, dear Michael, the decision does not just involve you, it's also the various repercussions. And I said, I told it 5 times, I've said this 5 times here, the repercussions for Canadians in China, for jobs, and for diplomatic personnel. So I agree with him that it's unacceptable and that he has to leave because we have to make sure that it's no longer a threat for the country. But at the same time, the issue of knowing how to get there and how we can analyze those things. So then I work with the department, and then the expulsion takes place on the 6th, and on the 7th he's declared persona non grata. And then the 8th, we learned that our diplomat, Jennifer Lalonde, has also been expelled from China.
Fundamentally, what I'm wondering is if you would agree that one of the key reasons underlying your decision to PNG Mr. Joe Wei was the PRC's targeting of my client. Would you agree with that?
Je pense qu'à l'époque, je demande l'information.
Yes, I think at the time I'm asking for that information because Zawe is a problem, but I understand that my deputy minister said that he didn't know that but I decided that he had to go.
In relation to Mr. Chong, is that?
Il a fait de l'ingérence étrangère.
He was accused of foreign interference. That's it. So any diplomat that doesn't respect the Vienna Convention and that has done it repeatedly, and it's a pattern, at that point we have to get rid of him. My goal is not to protect foreign diplomats in Canada. It's to protect Canadian interest. Zawe is not respecting and not protecting. He's in violation of the Vienna Convention.
It was made to look to the media and to the public and to Mr. Chong himself that this was a response to the PRC's targeting of him and his family. The Globe reports it on the 1st of May. He gets a TRM briefing on May 2nd. He raises it repeatedly in the House of Commons, and then on May 8th, Jiao Wei is on his way home. So surely to a reasonably informed member of the public and to Mr. Chong, they say it's because of what was in the Globe that Mr. Jiao Wei is sent home.
Bon, je pense que
I understand that that's the public's perception, but this was the first time I heard about the situation. And I told that to a client recently. Foreign interference, how can I say that? It's not a partisan issue. I find it horrible what happened to Michael. And this should not happen to any politician, to any member in this country. We are a democracy. We should be confident and know that we do have our place as a citizen. So despite all this suffering from Michael, if this allowed to create this commission and GAC and CSIS, if it allowed to create this situation, then there will be something good that will come out of it. And this is my perspective. And what I also told my colleague, that it's not just about China, it's also India, Iran, all those countries, when they do things and they are targeting parliamentarians or members of their diaspora, this is even worse. This is completely unacceptable, And when this happens, we will react. I do not see foreign affairs as a political battle. Foreign affairs, we are on a higher level, and we are responsible for Canadians' interests. And I am leading the foreign policy of Canada to protect Canada.
Morrison testified that CSIS had shared intelligence with Global Affairs on Joe Way at least as early as 2021, but it did not go beyond what he called the working level. Is that your understanding of the movement from intelligence to GAC as well?
Mon sous-ministre a dit.
So if my deputy minister said that, I guess that's the case. I was not informed.
C'est non seulement que change moi je dire, la façon dont mon cabinet est.
So the way my cabinet is informed pushes me to ask the question to the clerk, to ask the question to the minister, and I ask them, are there any other diplomats that are problematic? Because I need to be aware of that. And I was not informed that there were any more problematic diplomats. And I have no recommendations right now as to if there are any diplomats to expel.
Received that intelligence earlier. We know it was from 2021. You wouldn't have needed Mr. Joe's Way name to appear in the Globe and Mail before acting. You could have acted earlier. Is that fair?
Oui, tout à fait.
Okay.
Exactly.
Il y a plein de mesures.
You know, there are so many diplomatic measures that I take each day, each month, and they do not feature in the media.
Would it also be fair to say that there's a concern that if this hadn't appeared in the Globe and Mail, you wouldn't have been able to know about it and you wouldn't have PNG'd Joe Way at the time?
Ça, Maître, c'est une question qui est hypothétique. Je ne sais pas qu'est-ce qui serait passé.
This is hypothetical.
Was put in the Globe and Mail.
Ça, c'est un fait. L'autre, après, si je l'avais.
That is a fact. However, many other things could have happened. But yes, I do understand. With this article, I am aware of the situation and then we acted.
Puis je pense aussi que l'ingérence.
I also think that foreign interference is getting worse and worse because there is an international security crisis. I know that in the frame of this commission, we are analyzing what's happening in Canada, but I also see what's happening outside of Canada, what's happening abroad. And I am comparing with other countries too. I think it is important to work together. The goal of autocracies is to have impact on our democracy and on our citizens. So the whole democratic model is at stake here.
Morrison said was that Mr. Joe Way's position became untenable, that was his word, untenable, after the Globe and Mail reporting. And what I want to suggest to you that it wasn't the Globe's reporting that made Joe Way's presence in Canada untenable. It was his conduct in Canada that made his presence untenable. Isn't that right?
That is my interpretation. For sure, there was a violation of the Vienna Convention, and that is why that person was targeted. So yes, I agree.
And again, if you had known about his conduct earlier, he would have been expelled earlier.
J'ai répondu à cette question-là, oui.
Okay. Those are my questions.
I answered that question.
Merci.